You're listening to the Chasing Tails Outdoor Podcast, where when you can't be in the outdoors, we bring it to you. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another fantastic episode of the world-famous Chasing Tails Outdoor Podcast. My name is Walt, and I am joined by Chase. Dude, it is deer season. We are still talking deer hunting. We are getting in the deer woods. What is going on in your neck of the woods?
I wish I could report a lot of great things, but I honestly haven't been in the woods that much. I've had a couple of things going on, and I had some stuff going on with my bow early on, and then I've been out to the woods a little bit here and there. Deer aren't really moving great right now where I'm at, especially the bigger bucks. They haven't really started getting on their feet for that cruising yet, but it's fixing to start happening and should be busting wide open here in the next couple of weeks. So I've got some time scheduled off of work for that. And once I get done with that, then it'll be time to go to Iowa, man. So I'm chomping at the bits. It's fixing to be the best time of the year in my neck of the woods.
Yeah, man. I mean, your neck of the woods is firing off. My neck of the woods still isn't even ready.
Right.
My season still isn't even going at the time we're recording this. I don't know when we'll drop this episode, but by the time we do it, there's a real good chance that I still won't be hunting my zone in Florida. But that's okay, because very soon I will be hunting Southeast Georgia, the rut down there on the WMA that there are some hammers getting pulled off of. So I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, you're going to actually hunt with Greg Godfrey, isn't that right, from Tether?
Yeah. Yep.
So that should be a real good time.
It's going to be a great time. Actually, it'll be me, Greg, and my best friend Derek. Derek's been on the podcast a couple times. In the past. He's the fellow I went out to Colorado with, and he's going down there a few days before. He's going to be doing a lot of scouting, kind of giving us the what for down there, and then I'm going to get down there about midweek and put in a day's worth of scouting, and then the hunting just begins. We're just going to hit the ground running, which is kind of exciting because I don't want to set everybody's expectations too high, but I've been hunting Florida for 3-4 years now, hard. I grew up hunting Southeast Georgia. I feel like, and I could be wrong, and I probably shouldn't even say this, but I feel like I'm going to get on deer pretty quick over there.
Yeah. You've got a lot of experience growing up there, and I think that you're going to do well, and you can apply a lot of the things that you've learned down here in the last 3 or 4 years, and I think that'll help you as well when you get up there.
Yeah. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be kind of like a homecoming. I don't know. Maybe we'll make that the series net title. I don't know, but I'm gonna be toting the camera the whole way. We have got a perfect forecast. At no point in time will the camera not be with me, whether I'm scouting, whether I'm hunting, any of it. So I'm really excited. But dude, this episode for tonight is a humdinger of an episode. Caleb Gammill from Arkansas jumped on the phone, and he talked all things Arkansas river bottoms. And you said a couple different times that, or we did actually, both of us said a couple different times that where he hunts sounds a lot like Florida.
Yeah, I kept some of the stuff that he kept mentioning. I just kept envisioning Florida. And even their their longer deer season, their gun seasons, and then just some of the terrain and things, and how they have ruts that may start in October and extend through late November, December, and a little bit into January. I just kept kind of thinking, man, this sounds like Florida to me. So It was kind of cool to make that correlation. And we never had anybody on the podcast from Arkansas, and we mentioned it's been probably a month ago or so now about like a state that was kind of like that nobody really thinks about in the South, but has a lot of public land, is Arkansas. So it was kind of good to kind of get that confirmation. And he kind of was like, hey, it's not uncommon to kill, at least where he was hunting at, a 130-inch deer, which I thought was great.
Yeah. I want to get Caleb back on. In fact, we talked about this. We teed this up. We're going to do it to talk water access, how he uses water, the learning curve that goes into there. And I'm excited for that one because I think it's going to be a Really fun episode for sure. But we got some exciting news here for everybody, Chase. It's been no secret that we've been wearing Scree camo this year, and they have hooked us up with the promo code. So if you want to save a little bit of money, if you're interested in buying some Scree camo, go to the Scree website, screegear.com, and use the promo code Chasing Tails. Remember, that's TALES in either all caps or all lowercase. Doesn't make a lick of difference either which way. And that'll save you 15% off any regular priced items. So go check it out. They got some awesome little bundles over there as well. Some awesome gear, Chase. I mean, I've been using it since last year. You got some this year. You've had a good time using it.
Yeah, I've had a great time using it. I've used it scouting. I've used it the times that I've been out in the woods, and I think I mentioned to you the other day that I was like, I've always kind of rocked some of the cheaper camo and things like that, and it's kind of cool to see how this gear actually works and how much more enjoyable it can be when you're using that gear in a state like Florida where you're going to sweat. You got the humidity, you got the heat, and all those things kind of working against you, and how that gear can kind of help you out and keep you cooler, keep you in the stand longer.
Right. Yeah, and we're going to do a two-part series on this. We're going to do a series on how we layer. We're going to feature the Scree layers that we've got. It's going to be kind of an early season and a late season. I think that's going to be something that, honestly, we've gotten a lot of questions from people on, like, what should I buy? What first two pieces should we have? And that's another exciting announcement that we have. On the idea of what two pieces should you buy, this quarterly giveaway that we're going to do, we can announce what that is, Chase. And I think this is a really fun one because what we've done is we've kind of taken some of the items that we've talked about most recently and done videos on, and we've put together a pot of giveaway goodies that everybody's going to get to enjoy. First, it's the Alps Outdoors Pursuit Pack. We're going to be giving one of those away. And inside, we're going to throw some Titan straps in there, two 20-inch Titan straps. That's been a very popular video that's been on our YouTube channel. It's good for any kind of gear, but mainly I advocate the use of them to hold your Predator platform and your sticks together. And then on top of that, we're going to give away a Kaibab 170 top and 170 bottom from Scree. So you're looking at well over $300 worth of gear there for this quarterly giveaway. And if you're interested in supporting the show and winning a couple $100 worth of prizes, getting a chance to, that is, 4 times a year, check out the link in the show notes. We'd love to have you join.
Yeah. We just gave away the Timber Ninja sticks to one of our patrons, Tim, and he actually just got those sticks in the mail. And he was just blown away by how well made they were and how light they were. He sent us a video of him out in the yard testing them out, and he's actually fixing to use them this coming up week on a trip where he's going to Georgia to test them out. So it was good to get to give those sticks away and just to see how much enjoyment that he got out of it. So Patreon, it's a real thing, and we're trying to do the best we can to get gear that people will actually use and enjoy out in the woods.
Yeah, absolutely. And just a friendly reminder, that money that we raise, that goes directly into running this podcast, fuel bills, equipment, license costs. We don't make any money on that. So we would love to send you a sticker or a hat and some free gear 4 times a year if you're willing to support the show. But I think with that said, let's get them on their way to Caleb.
Let's do it.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are bringing you a guest from a state that we have yet to discuss and has a lot to discuss. Hailing from the fine state of Arkansas, we've got Caleb Gammill on the phone. Dude, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you guys doing?
Man, better than I deserve, man. It's deer season. It was cool here for a little bit. It's warmed up a little bit, so I'm not too happy about that. But it is deer season, so I've got very little to complain about.
I hear you.
Well, dude, so Arkansas is the mecca for a lot of hunting. Some hunting I think people don't really know about, and we're going to get to that in just a second. But I want to take a moment and kind of introduce you to the guests. So kind of give everybody the elevator pitch. Who is Caleb, and what do you do with your free time?
Caleb. I live in a little small town of Lone Oak, Arkansas, which is pretty much center of the state. And I got 3 kids, married, and I'm a master plumber. Do plumbing for my money. So I'm always doing that, but as soon as I get a spare moment, I'm either hunting or fishing, mostly on the public land.
Yeah, yeah. You definitely spend a whole lot of time chasing something. It seems like if there's a season for it, you're after it.
Always. And I'll try any season if I can get a tag for it.
So let's talk about Arkansas, because Arkansas is a state that I think is overlooked for a variety of reasons. Not necessarily that people consciously make that decision, but I just don't think Arkansas makes the dialogue as much as it should. Everybody knows that you can close your eyes, pull the trigger on a shotgun, and smack down a limit of mallards in Arkansas. But I think there's more to the state. How do you want to go about introducing everybody to your home?
Definitely has the ducks, and that's what it's known for. But it gets overlooked, I'd say, for the deer and the quality. The quality has just gotten better as I've gotten older, which the management's gotten better. But as far as like these duck hunting areas that are known for all these ducks and everything are really kind of under the radar and growing really big bucks too, because most of those areas are in farm country, and they just have that rich soil that grows the big deer, has the genetics and the food, and that's what I do hunt. And there's a lot of public land in Arkansas. I don't know, a lot of people may not look into it, but there's quite a bit of it, and the tags are pretty reasonable for non-resident. I mean, it's $25 for a resident, but it's a great place that gets overlooked, I think. So,
Shoot, yeah, man.
be surprised what you can bring out here in Arkansas if you put your time in.
Would you consider Arkansas a place that someone who's wanting to make a trip should go to?
I think so. I mean, for how much public there is, and I mean, you just never know what you're going to bring out of the woods, but it's your chances are really good if you put in the homework and time, effort. You could come back with some really nice deer. I mean, you're going to see some deer. We have good numbers, so I mean, it's definitely worth it. I don't think anybody would be let down by a trip to Arkansas.
Right. What's a good deer for Arkansas?
It's kind of by your experience in the person, I guess. But I'd say anybody could come here and try to. Just depends on what they've killed personally or where they're at in their hunting career. But I'd set my goals for a 130. If I was coming to Eastern Arkansas,
Doggone.
and I don't think that's a too high of a standard.
Yeah. That's a serious deer, man. I mean, that's up there with just about any Midwest state. It maybe better than some.
Yeah, I mean, you may change your mind once you have a bunch of nice bucks running around under you, but I mean, I think that's a realistic goal, a 130.
Yeah.
Somewhere around that. I was going to say, if that makes you happy, I mean, there's definitely bigger, but I'd say 130 is where you'd want to probably stop at.
Yeah, well, we're from Florida, so a 130 is a giant to us. So I'm pretty sure anybody from Florida coming out there seeking a 130 would be is going to shoot one. And most guys, honestly, are going to shoot something. If it's 100 inches or better, they're probably going to shoot it coming from Florida for the most part, because that's just a good deer.
What's the habitat like on the public land there? I mean, are you able to hunt? Is there kind of like a leased farm hardwood deal there, or is it kind of like a lot of other places where it's the least desirable land is what you get to hunt from an agricultural standpoint?
No, it's actually really good land as far as the WMAs. I mean, it's big hardwood timber tracts where I hunt. I mean, it's in farm country. Most of the farming around it's private, but it butts up to the WMAs. So, of course, the deer feed off of that, but you can hunt right up to it. And some WMAs actually do, food plots and that type of stuff. I don't ever hunt them because everybody hunts them. But the like the woods are hardwood timber, all kinds of white oaks and red oaks and pin oaks and just about any kind of oak you can think of. And then you've just got the major rivers that run through there and just the rich, dark, fertile soil that I think helps with the genetics. And that's in eastern Arkansas. I mean, we call them mountains, but we have the Ozarks and the Ouachita's, and that's full of oaks and all that, but I don't really hunt that much. I stick mostly to the farming delta area. But there's tons of ground everywhere for people to access. Just all up from pretty much the top of the state all the way down to the south end of the state. Just follow the main rivers down through the state there, and there's all kinds of tracks down through there.
Yeah, so abundance amount of public land is what you're telling us.
There's tons. Just look it up. All you got to do is find from the Arkansas, the White, and the Mississippi River, from the top of the state to the bottom, all converge together, run down, and there's areas all the way down the whole length of the state, top to bottom.
Right, and you were mentioning earlier, I think before we got on, is that you thought that the deer herd was in good condition in Arkansas. There were good numbers.
Oh yeah, I don't think it's struggling at all. I mean, it fluctuates, of course, and we get quite a bit of flooding and stuff, and that I don't know that many lately have suffered from it. I know they may get moved out of an area, and some in particular that I hunt have been under for quite a while, so I'm sure they have to move to higher ground at some point, but it seems like they always go home once they can, so I don't think it bothers them too much.
So a lot of people, when they talk about an abundance of land, I hear river bottoms, I think about people having to go really deep to get away from people. You kind of mentioned how the planted areas tend to get a lot of focus. Do you find yourself having to work really hard to get away from pressure in Arkansas?
Sometimes on certain areas and certain times of the year, like early season, everybody's on public, I think, just because they're, especially this year with the virus and all that mess. I think everybody's just trying to get outside, but everybody's just all gung-ho, which we've had really nice weather, too. It's been a great opening week this year. Besides, the mosquitoes are still bad. I went out there thinking the mosquitoes weren't going to be bad, but they're pretty bad. But, yeah, I mean, it's just overlooked areas. I mean, I do go far in certain times, but there's a lot of places that get overlooked that are sometimes right next to the road that are easy to get to. They just don't get, they get overlooked.
Sure.
So you just kind of got to do homework on that, see what people are doing, and kind of do what they're not doing.
Do you have a traditional rut in Arkansas?
It kind of starts like from the west part. I mean, it even shows there's some stuff on it on Game and Fish, but seems to start where I'm at, like maybe Thanksgiving, but I think it kind of has to do with the years and the floods. I think they breed later in the eastern part of the state just so they drop their young later because it seems to flood in the winter and then drop out in the spring. So maybe they drop them later. I mean, that's my theory, but you'll see some late rutting in December. I've even seen them chasing in January. So it kind of starts in the western part of the state, October, and then just kind of goes the further you come towards the Mississippi, the later it is.
Okay, so you could, if you were living in Arkansas, you could kind of chase the rut for a little while.
You definitely could on public land, yes. That's kind of what you guys were saying too with Florida.
Yeah.
Kind of move around with the rut. I have friends that hunt kind of more of the Ozark area. Mm-hmm. And they're kind of done after about before Thanksgiving. They're like, oh, they're not doing anything. I'm like, man, they're just getting fired up where I'm at. And they think I'm crazy, but that's just they've never hunted. They're kind of intimidated by the flooded stuff and the swampy grounds. But I'm kind of timid by the hills, I guess. I've hunted it some, but not a whole lot.
Yeah, there's a popular theory here in Florida that a lot of the rut is influenced by the very same thing, flooding, because you have the Everglades and you have your rainy season that comes in and floods the ground, and they believe that that's greatly pushed when the fawns drop. So I bet you it's probably a similar dynamic there, and it actually kind of seems kind of cool that you've got a late rut that's influenced in a way that I previously thought was unique to Florida.
Yeah, it definitely is. I feel it's that way. It just, I mean, some people say it's just this 2 weeks every year, but I mean, I've just seen it. I've hunted over there my whole life, and you'll see deer breeding in January, and then you see fawns, going into the next season, like right now with spots on them over there. So, I mean, they're getting bred late, and they're fawns later. So they just adapt to whatever the conditions they're dealt with.
I could see that for sure. So what would you, if you had to summarize, there's all the favorite catchphrases out there. There's the Eberhart tactics, the beast tactics, the kayak tactics, all this different stuff. How would you describe how you approach the whitetail woods on kind of a day in, day out basis?
All those tactics put into my own. Take a little of everybody's and just make it what you need it to be for you. I mean, I've done it all, I guess, just by trial and error and just not having success. So, I tend to stick to the bedding areas. I hunt them I'm always thinking about bedding areas. I mean, I know you got to have the food and the water and the everything else, but I'm always looking for bedding areas where just security cover where I think they're going to be, especially whenever other people get in the woods and where they feel safe. And then I go from that and try to find food, the closest food from those areas.
Mm-hmm.
And if you find it all, that's when I find the most success, is when I find the best cover and it has the food and water's close, which usually I don't have problems with water in that area.
Yeah.
It's everywhere. But also you can use the water for access too. I use a Piro, so that if it gets up that high, it kind of helps dictate where you're going to go. They're going to walk those higher areas, but then you can go in a little more scent free and quiet. And then if you're successful, it's a lot easier to get them out too. You just throw them in the Piro.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of what I focus on first, is just where are they? Where are they hanging out?
Sure.
Where they feel safe. Then I find food from there.
So,
okay.
Go ahead, Chase.
No, I was just going to ask, well, how are you locating the deer? Are you using trail cameras, boots on the ground? Like, what's your methods of locating the deer that you want to go after?
Mostly boots on the ground. I used to do cameras, but the cameras wouldn't work. I was going in there too much. I'd get discouraged, and then I come to find out the deer just walked behind the camera, not in front of it. So I'm thinking, the area's not good. I go out there, my cameras either went underwater or got stolen. So then I'm hanging cameras up high, having to climb trees to hang cameras. Then I forget the stick, and I can't check the camera. Just it was just more headache. And I know I have buddies that do it and they're successful doing it. And I like seeing the cameras and the pics with all the, stuff. But it was more aggravating to me, and it played mine. I guess I just had mind games with the cameras. So I just kind of put them to the side, and I go with locating all those areas where I think they're at, and then I go find the freshest sign at that time, and then try to figure out what they're doing, where are they going to feed, why are they doing it, and hopefully when are they doing it, and then try to get in there as tight as I can.
Well, what's fresh sign look like to you early season in Arkansas?
It looks like the other. Me and a buddy hunted just the other day. I've only hunted twice so far this year. Just been kind of sitting back waiting, and because it opens October, or it's actually the first Saturday now. It used to be October 1st, but that may be like a Monday or a Tuesday. So they open it on the first Saturday, the last weekend of September, pretty much.
Okay.
So that way it's always on a Saturday. But we hunted last week in an area, and I haven't been in the woods since turkey season. I do a lot of scouting after season, and some, I guess, because our season's into February, so usually I'm done, so I'll go February, look at stuff, just because you can see everything and what they're doing. But I just went to an area, because we were just trying to hunt and hopefully kill a doe or something. We weren't, we're not too serious yet, but I knew where our bedding area was pretty close to the road, and it's full of every kind of acorn tree, and we just did a quick loop in there and found really fresh sign, and the red oaks are dropping right now. And so I was set up on a red oak less than 100 yards from a big swamp area that I know a lot of deer use as a bedding area, but perfect wind, it's easy to get to, and most people, there was a lot of traffic, but there's a main road or logging road, I guess you'd say, and everybody was kind of going down it and actually going further, which was it's kind of funny, but we're hunting. I mean, I could see my truck, but the sign was, it almost looks like hogs are in there, because there was 2 red oaks. One was actually 12 yards from my tree, and then the other one's about 35. But it just looks like hogs rooting in there right now. But there's tons of, there's hardly any leaves it's all stirred up under the tree. There's fresh acorns. There was no acorns because they were eating them. They're just cleaning them up. But the caps are there, and there's just fresh droppings everywhere, because they're spending a lot of time there.
Right.
And then my buddy, pretty much, he was about maybe 300 yards from me, same bedding area, but he was hunting we found a locust tree that was dropping, the bean pods.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
And they were hammering that. So he set up on that. And he had a buck come in at 4:30. It's a little 6-point. He filmed it, and it stayed there till dark. And he had a couple other does, but they didn't ever come in. But I messed up. I wasn't paying attention. I was more on my phone first day, telling everybody I'm in the woods, and, taking selfies and that kind of stuff. But yeah, I've got a new saddle, and I wasn't uncomfortable. I hadn't moved in like 4 hours, and instead of looking around, I just stood up on my platform and threw my arms up, stretching, and I just happened to look down, and 12 yards at that red oak, there's a doe standing there looking straight up at me. So needs to say she blew and ran off, because he texted me right after that, wondering if is that deer blowing at you, and I was like, oh yeah. It got me pinned. So, but it was like a successful afternoon. We saw deer. I had 2 more come in, but it was kind of late, and they actually came into the tree at 12. One was under my tree, but I drew back on them, but I just couldn't see my pins clear enough to get a shot. So I just let them. I had to stay in my tree for about 45 more minutes. But that's kind of what we were looking at the other day, anyway, as far as sign. But they're coming right out of the bedding area. They're staging up in the first food from that, because that swampy area, as far as, I guess they could, it's all green right now, so they could browse on anything. But they're coming straight to those first trees that are dropping, and us going out after that, after dark. I think then they go out into the main hardwoods and feed all night.
So
Right.
let's talk about the bedding area, because it doesn't sound like you're hunting beds like themselves so much as you're definitely hunting bedding, like regions, areas where deer are bedding. And I've really started to push recently into river bottom creek areas here in Florida. And sometimes those areas are wide open as far as the eye can see, with just, grass and vines that doesn't feel very appealing for bedding cover, right? What does ideal, or maybe most commonly, what do you see as bedding cover in Arkansas?
For the most part, it's usually just the thickest, nasty stuff I can find, but it's not always that way. It's really just where people don't hunt. I mean, it could be, just places that's thicker but doesn't have the good trees that people will hunt. I know I mean, sometimes every once in a while you'll see bucks in Arkansas. They'll be bedded in the wide open timber, against a blowdown.
Mm-hmm.
They have a little bit of security cover there, but they can see everything. You can see you coming from a mile away. But I just don't set up on those because it's just, I mean, you're busted before you even get started.
Yeah.
But so, I mean, I've tried to figure out the whole buck bedding, and I just couldn't find it. As far, I mean, you can find some of it. I guess I know it's a buck, but I mostly am just looking. Even if it's just does bedding in an area, there's usually bucks around. But I'm looking for bigger bedding areas that holds a lot of deer. Most of the ones I hunt, I mean, you'll watch a bunch of does come out, and then bucks come out, but it's so big. But I mean, you'll set up on. You'll find scrapes and rubs that are really right on the edge of those bedding areas. And once I'm trying to kill a buck, I'm setting up on those areas or close to it where there's food from that.
Gotcha. So you're looking for thick cover. And once you find that, you're then looking for evidence that the kind of deer that you're looking for are there, and there's like almost like an and thing for you, right? Like you find the thick cover, and then you find food, or you find rubs, or something like that.
Yeah, you can hunt a lot of that thick cover, and there's nothing really going on there. I mean, if there's not fresh sign, I'm not going to hunt it.
Gotcha.
It may have been good 2 weeks ago, or it may be good in 2 weeks. It just depends on, I guess, the time of year, the pressure, the food. There's a lot of factors. But if I'm not finding fresh sign, I'm not hunting it. I'm just going to move on. So that's what, like when I was saying, I go, I guess, in February through turkey season, I'm looking for all these areas, just marking them. Like my onyx, the whole thing's orange. Just every one of them. Because plus, you just never know. Like year before last, I killed a really nice buck. I was going to another bedding area that morning, but I passed 3 people going in, shining lights at me. So I just said, screw this. There was another one that I hadn't even hunted, but I marked it, and it was just in my mind the whole time. But I just wanted to go to these other ones that I was more familiar with. So I was like, now is a better time than any since I'm getting shined at every 100 yards. So
Yeah.
I backed out and I found that one on my map, parked parallel with it, and I didn't take a stand that morning. I put on a ghillie suit and just kind of eased my way in there. Really, I was scouting, but I was, took my bow, and if something was to happen, I'd try to capitalize on it. But I ended up seeing a ton of deer in there that morning, and then I actually saw the buck that I killed that afternoon. But he was bedding on it's a real small, it's really just a beaver pond. It comes off of a bigger swampy area, kind of from where I was wanting to hunt. But again, there was nobody hunting in there. So I'm assuming he had moved down, and he was bedding out on this little, it's a beaver pond, but it kind of had a clump of tree, a little hill out there, and 3 or 4 trees out there, and a bunch of cane and cattails. And he come out of there feeding with the does. That was Christmas Eve day, so it was December 24th, and he was eating mostly green briars. That's what they were feeding on. And so I went back in there. I went and got something to eat real quick, went back in there and hung my stand at 1 o'clock and got in it. And then I killed him about 30 minutes before dark. He actually come back out, did the same thing, but it took forever. I didn't think he was I was like, well, I'm not going to get him tonight. And then he turned right at last light and beelined it to my tree, and then I shot him. So, I mean, just having a lot of those areas for me is, you can just bounce around and find which one's hot that day.
How do you go about picking a spot per se? If you're always hunting fresh sign, do you find yourself walking in midday and hunting in the evenings, having identified fresh sign? How do you kind of make that decision?
Yes, most of the time I'll go to just spots that I do know in mornings, or say like if I wanted to hunt that spot where I killed that buck, I'd go there in the morning if the wind was favorable where I wanted to go. Uh, it may be a bust in the morning, but then I would get down, check it out, and if there's no sign in there, I'm going to move to another spot. Or if there is sign, I'm probably going to go back in there and give it an afternoon. Or you may have to walk down it. You may move 300 or 400 yards from where you thought you were going to hunt because they're hitting a red oak down there on that side of that beaver pond.
Mm-hmm.
If everything lines up with the wind and all that. But that one actually is really close to the road, too. That was another reason I was kind of wanting to go to that other spot that day. I just thought I needed to go further back because I was seeing a lot of people, but I was kept thinking, I need to hunt that spot. But I was like, no, that's right on the road. But then once I got kind of pushed out of that spot, I was like, and it was already cracking daylight. I just eased into that spot, and that's where all the deer were.
Yeah, it makes sense. I've done a fair amount of that in recent years. I've started to kind of Florida's a weird place, and it seems like a lot of times I found myself getting in a rut where I would, say to myself, deer should be here, and then I'd hunt that spot a while instead of trying to find that pocket of deer. Where the fresher sign was, and maybe maybe I kind of had to get used to the idea that maybe I'd walk in and walk back out that day and not have found anything worth hunting over.
Yeah, it's taken me a long time to do that. I feel like if I'm not in a tree, or I used to, if I wasn't in the tree, I wasn't going to kill anything. But it's really just the opposite. The more time I spend on the ground looking for fresh sign, plus that year, it was the year before last, I bought that ghillie suit off Amazon. It's a cheap, I think it's Red Rock or something. But I walked up on so many deer just in their habitat doing their thing, feeding, and just take your time. And like when you're a kid learning how to slip and shoot squirrels, that's kind of how I'm hunting, or just walking through the woods. But I'm looking for sign, but I'm also looking ahead, looking with my binoculars, looking for deer, and just kind of examining everything. But
Sure.
You just find stuff. You can just be where it's hot instead of over here in your old spot where you hoping he comes by, which I've done for a long time.
Yeah.
So
I think it's
I spend
easy.
a lot more time walking now than I did.
Right.
Yeah, that seems to be a common theme with hunters that are super successful. Is you'll hear that they'll spend way more time scouting than they actually spend hunting, and you're kind of validating that with, hey, I'm willing to give up a hunt or two just to be able to find the freshest sign, so I'm not really just wasting time in certain areas.
That's it. At first you're gonna be like, man, I need to be hunting, but you are hunting. You're hunting for the fresh sign, and then you feel so confident going in. Once you find it, you like, tonight's the night, and a lot of times it is. You just, to me, even if I want to kill them and get the shot, but just seeing them and when you're in that area and almost getting them is almost just as sweet because you're in the ball game instead of being over in left field, or really right field, not getting anything, not getting any action over there.
Right.
But you're still, you're suited up like everybody else, but you're not getting to play. So,
Yeah. How often do you sit the same spot twice?
just depends on what I'm seeing, but I'd say now no more than 3 or 4 times. And well, I'd probably no more than 2 times in a row. I'd have to be seeing a lot to go back.
Sure.
But most of the time, I don't sit in the same spot more than 4 times in the season.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, how do you now do you have like multiple areas? Like how do you do it with maybe like if you're going in or something, you're going, okay, well the wind's all wrong for that area. Maybe I need to go try these spots today to find fresh sign.
Yep, that's all I look at is the wind and all my spots. I go cross-eyed looking at my maps. if I'm even when I'm at work, at lunch, like today, I'm checking the wind, which I'm on call right now, so not gonna be much hunting this weekend. So I'm kind of glad that it's supposed to be a turd floater and wash everybody's weekend away. But
Right.
I'm not too mad about it. But
Yeah.
I'm just always looking at that stuff. But like, I have a lot of access not too far from my house, so I've got uh, two different WMAs and then another place, and they're all public. And I may hunt this WMA, but then I'm a little further the next day or even that afternoon looking at a whole nother spot. But I'm just constantly looking for those, that just all those areas and marking them. And then from there, trying to find what they're doing from there. They're there at some point. You just got to go back and find if they're there now and what they're doing now, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
With and and a lot of it's pressure too, because a lot of people can find the stuff. So how many people are doing it, I'm sure dictates what the deer are doing too. A big buck's not gonna stay around if he's getting pressured a lot, and he may stay in that area. You may just have to move on down and find another tree that's right on the edge of the bedding, or maybe even in it. Sometimes I'll hunt in the bedding areas. I try not to go all the way in the bedding area first, but later in the season I'll get right in the middle of it.
Sure. So let me throw like a hypothetical out there at you. You find one of these spots, it's got the sign you're looking at, but it's nothing but scrub bucks that are coming through. If you're seeing deer, but maybe not the quality of deer that you're looking for, how does that impact your decision when you're figuring out if you're going to go back there?
I would think there's a buck in the area, but if the sign's there and stuff, but I'd probably give it 2 sits if I'm seeing deer and I'm not getting busted. But I'm not going to just keep on it, because I think you're educating them anyway. They know
Sure.
after a whole while. And a lot of times, even if I do hunt the area or really close, I'm still going to move to a different tree if I can. But I'm not going to just wait and wait and wait. I may hunt it. Say I hunt it 2 times, don't see what I want to see, but I didn't. I'm seeing deer, seeing bucks, didn't get busted. I'm going to keep it on the radar and probably go back, maybe give it a week, go back in there and see if he is in there now or if he just moves that day or what. But that's kind of like with not running cameras, it is a guessing game. But the cameras just hurt me too much. They just play with my head. I just want to pull my hair out. It works for guys. I've got a lot of friends that do it. So right. I don't like the headache anymore. It's so much easier to not have them for me.
Yeah, because then if a 150 walks out, you're surprised as opposed to having him on trail camera all the time too.
Yeah. I know they're there. The areas I hunt, I know the good deer are there. I know you just have to be there when they're there. Hopefully
right.
cross that path.
Right. Now, how do you transition any once the rut gets closer? Are you doing anything different? Are you still just hugging bedding areas with a hot sign for food, or is that when you transition to the scrapes and rubs and stuff?
I look for all that sign. I would say if I can find that perfect spot, like multiple areas or bedding areas, I will. Because a lot of people like pinch points and their funnels, and I'll hunt that a little bit during the rut. If I'm seeing that they're really, seems like they're rutting and chasing, but I'd want to be still pretty tight to bedding. But I've got a couple spots that are 2 bedding areas are pretty close, and there's some pretty pinch down stuff like with the river or some water where they have to go through there. Those are really good spots, and I'll sit on those all day during the rut. I don't like sitting all day, but I'll do it some. But I do hunt a lot. I do hunt a lot till about 12:30, 1 o'clock. My 2 biggest deer I killed at 12:05 and about 12:15. at noon. And that's when a lot of people are going. I actually saw people and heard people talking and going back. And I actually got down, moved a little further into the bedding area, and then killed my biggest buck that way at 12:05.
So it sounds like you kind of have a pattern that you've identified in this area, and it just always, I won't say it always works because you don't kill every time you go out, but how long is this something that you kind of stumbled upon on your own, and or how did you go about, figuring out that this worked for your area so well?
A lot of failure. I'm like, what am I not doing? Because I am doing this all the time, and it's not working. But I just felt like I was doing what everybody's doing, which, you try to get advice from everybody. But then once you realize they're not killing anything either, I'm like, why would I do what they're doing?
Sure.
But you start looking at what people aren't doing, but everybody looks for food. I mean, you can kill a deer any, scenario on bedding or on food or just running across the field chasing a toe. But for me, it's been more just focusing on security cover where they feel safe and they can get away from the people, because we're hunting public land. So, they want to eat and they want to breed, but, that covers somewhere where they can escape and get away.
I got you.
So I stick to that because that's just where they are for the most part. I know they move and bounce around, and I'm sure that's from food sources changing throughout the season. Plus, if they're still thinking about does, they're going to move, close to wherever they are. So if I can find bedding areas that I'm just seeing a lot of does, I'll hang out around and bounce around in those areas, hoping to run into a buck, because he's doing the rut. He's not going to be far.
Mm-hmm.
But he's got to eat sometime.
Right.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
It's interesting. I mean, did you start off being a mobile hunter that hunted the swamps? What did that evolution look like for you?
Well, I've always kind of I grew up around these places fishing a lot with my grandpa. He didn't really. I mean, he hunted, but he just wasn't that hardcore into it. He could care less if he killed one or not. He just wanted to be involved. He'd rather be at camp, cooking for everybody. But he always took me, and I knew there was big deer in these areas. So once I could start driving myself, I got a 30-pound climbing stand and my bare whitetail and just went after it, and just kind of went from there. But I was hunting close to the road. I'd find a white oak tree because everybody said that was the best, and I would see deer on occasion and miss a lot. But you see those real pretty food plots, hunt those, and not see anything. You just learn to walk further than the next guy, or go, instead of going to that food plot on the right side of the road, go on the left side of the road where everybody's not going. And you just start finding out more things where deer are and where people aren't.
So do you feel like these deer hang out in the river bottoms year round, or do you feel like they kind of move back and forth? Because one of the things I've noticed is we have these very vast river bottoms, and I ran cameras starting last year just because I needed like a little bit of visual confirmation. I wasn't really looking to identify my top 5 target deer, but I just wanted to make sure that, that there was a deer in there worth me going after, or deer in general. And I noticed that they tended to stray away from the river bottoms. It was almost as if, as the season progressed, whether it was food sources changing, whether it was pressure being applied, it seemed like the activity in those swamps was very low early on. And as the season progressed, the deer kind of got pushed in there. Do you see similar things, or do you think you have resident deer that just always hang out there?
On one area, it's resident deer just because it's such a nice WMA, and I don't think they go as far, I'd say. I mean, we call it the GQ woods just because it's so nice and manicured. But there's another spot that's on a major river, And I feel like those deer travel a lot more, especially in the rut. Because we've even got them on camera when we used to do it. We'd get the same buck a mile away the
Sure.
next day. But I guess he's just running ragged. I don't know what he's doing, worried about breeding more than being where he's comfortable in. I don't know. But, yeah, I'd say the major rivers, it seems like they travel more and move. But they do transition, too. I know early season, like I can see all kinds of real nice bucks a couple months ago on all the farmers' soybeans that are private that border these places.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then, you can look at them and take your pictures and talk about them, but they're not going to be there when the season opens. They're going to move off of that. They keep up with the season, so they know when it opens. And they move further back off of that. They always have. So they definitely move it now. And then once the acorns start falling, I don't think it matters about the soybeans and that stuff anyway. They go to that. But then like this year, I'd say, there's a lot of people in the woods for some reason. I'm just assuming it's because of all the crap we've been going through. But I don't know how that's going to affect them this year. And maybe that'll die down too. I don't know. But like the other day, there was a lot of people hunting on this road. We were pretty close to that main access road, but we were hunting right off of the gravel road. But everybody was going down that logging road and going further back. But it's such an easy road. If you had access to, if it was legal, you could drive a car down it. It's that nice.
Mm.
So I think everybody was just going down it, and then they, thought they were going far, and then they just, because most places we saw where people were hunting, they were just hunting right off the edge of that road, but they were walking. They were actually walking a long way. But I think, deer move there right now. They were up by the road because everybody's further in there.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm interested to see if this year holds a similar pattern to last year, because last year it was very like cut and dry. Whether it was the acorns dropping or whether it was the hunting pressure, it went from no deer on camera to deer all hours of the night, coming by these cameras. But last year was a really weird year for food. We had 0 acorns, so it kind of makes sense that you could at least hypothesize that the deer may not have been in those bottoms because they were up in the piney areas where the stem count was maybe a little higher and they could browse.
Yeah, they're definitely going to move where the food is. That's the does anyway, and then the bucks are going to follow.
Right.
But like that's my spot died, or where I was seeing a lot of deer year before last when I said I killed that buck. I had to move, and then I had to move again because of the people, and they were eating greenbrier. I hadn't even thought about that, but I just went in there and observed it, and that's what they were doing. There were some pin oaks still here and there, but that year there just wasn't a lot of acorns, and it was kind of weird. Like, I really like to find a hot white oak, but that year I never really found one that was. I found some dropping, but they weren't
hot.
There wasn't enough sign that I was like, I'm not going to sit up on that.
Mm-hmm.
And I would have 10 years ago.
Right.
But I killed that buck, eating greenbrier. But he was in a it was a secluded area. It was hard to get to. It was right on the road, or not too far off the road, but you had to cross 2 little bodies of water with waders. And then it was just thick cane. And then that, he just had everything. He had the food there, the cover. There was no sign of anybody hunting in there. And then he was just coming right out and feeding right there on the side of that little area where all those greenbriers were growing.
Right. Now, is there a lot of bow hunters in Arkansas? Or I know y'all have a gun season, right? Y'all have a general gun season in Arkansas?
Yeah, it's like 5 weeks. It's a freaking massacre. The Orange Army comes out. I do it too some. I still like gun hunting. I like to hear them go off, smell the gunpowder, It's just tradition, but I don't do it a whole lot. I mostly bow hunt, but I'll try to get permits. There's permits you can draw for these areas. Most of them are 3 to 5 days, and during that, it's only permit holders. So if you didn't draw, you can't be on it that week that it's open. But that's what I do like about those places. That they're only, and that's another thing to think about Arkansas. A lot of these are bow only areas. They don't get all that.
Oh, interesting.
Gun. So all the private land around it is getting hammered by gun hunters, and then you've got all these acres that's nothing but bow only. So that's something to take into consideration too. They have a safe haven to go and get old.
Sure.
Let us get killed by one of us bow hunters.
Fanatics.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, is there dog hunting allowed in Arkansas?
In certain zones, but not. They're just about to get rid of. I mean, there's not very many anymore.
Really?
Okay.
There's none over where I'm at. In the eastern part of the state, there's none. And there's a couple areas that are shotgun only, kind of like Iowa.
Right.
There's one area over there that I've hunted it some, but I don't hunt it much. It's actually for sale. It's in a big deal. Everybody's signing up to petition because the state's trying to sell it to a private person, and it's a WMA right now.
Oh, that's crap.
Yeah. So it's looking better. I mean, they've got some state representatives backing it up, trying to save it. I mean, it's a really good area, and it's in that one little area. It's the place to hunt, or you have to travel further. So there's a lot of locals fighting for it, but it's in a shotgun area, and it's a really good. There's real big deer in that area, just because they just can only shotgun hunt. But for the most part of the state, it's wide open. You can shoot. I guess your 50 cal. That's what you want to use.
Right. for the 5 weeks that y'all get.
Yeah, there's like 5 weeks of gun, and then you have it used to be an early doe season weekend. It was antlerless only, but they moved it to December this year because they've had a lot of complaints about that. And then you have a 2 weeks of muzzleloader in October, and then like a week in, I want to say it's in January or December, into December. Yeah, that's what it is. You have a Christmas, right after Christmas, the 26th, 27th, and 28th, you have a gun season. They call it the Christmas holiday hunt. That's rifle. Then you have, just on the tail end of that, so pretty much you have 3 days of gun and 3 days of muzzleload right after Christmas. So there's a lot of firepower that goes on through the state.
Right. And how long's the season there? Doesn't Arkansas season go a little bit longer? Is it through February or to February?
Yeah, end of February, last day of February.
End of February. Wow. Now, have the deer dropped their antlers by then, or are there still some holding on?
I killed one last year. It was January 27th. And you'll see, especially in the eastern part of the state, I had a mid 140s on a WMA on camera whenever I ran cameras. It was actually my brother-in-law's. But we went back. We should have hunted that deer, but we had kind of started thinking about crappie fishing because the weather was nice. But he was going to this food plot that was way off. It was hard to get to, but we just put a camera on it and found one of his sheds. But he had his until the first couple weeks of March.
Right.
So I guess I don't know if that's the genetics and the health of the deer or what, but a lot of deer hold their horns through the season anyway. I'd say that.
Yeah, it's kind of like here. We'll have deer. I've seen deer down here. Our season normally ends like January 20th, somewhere around there. And I've seen deer holding their antlers up to like middle of March, almost April before down here. Just because they're not getting any harsh winters or anything like that. And like you said, if they're healthy, then they're probably not going to lose their antlers.
That's us.
Too
It's not
soon.
super cold here. I mean, you'll have winters that I guess super cold to us, but I guess the Valley guys will probably laugh at us.
Right.
But our deer don't struggle. I'd say the floods mess with them more than anything.
What's a big body sized deer there?
It depends on what region you're in.
Okay.
Like the south part of the state where all the pines that we have timber company, a 130-pound buck is pretty average. But over where I'm at in the Delta, they're pushing 200 pounds, a lot of them.
That's grown.
I killed one that was 215 or 216. It was well over 200 pounds, pretty good over 200 pounds. But
Right.
most of them are going to be over 165 pounds that you kill over in the Delta, at least that.
Okay. So, I mean, Arkansas is sounding a lot like Florida to me, Walter.
Yeah, it really is.
Longer gun seasons. He's hunting swamp. I mean, even the deer, like body size ranges are kind of there as well. Because in my area,
Yep.
I mean, I've killed deer that are 190, pushing 200 pounds in Florida. But you go to South Florida or some other areas around here where they might go 120, 130. Same type thing, depending on the soil quality and what they're eating. And
if you go to South Arkansas, that's where I was telling you about the deer lease I'm in. That's for me to turkey hunt, and if I'm just want to get away, but it's 5,000 acres of timber company, and we lease it. But that's to get my kids. They're pretty hooked. My oldest daughter has killed her deer down there, but it's mostly pines. They'll leave anywhere there's water drainage or a creek. They leave a buffer, so that's where the hardwoods are on each side of that. So you can still hunt oak trees and stuff, but it's real sandy soil down there, and the deer just don't get that big down there. I mean, they don't have a lot of mass, and the body weight's just a lot less down there. But there's a ton of deer down there. If you just want to go have fun, it's a real game-rich environment. And there's hogs running around everywhere, and I mean, it's a good time.
What so you said, it's not uncommon to find a 130. How does that change when you get down in that southern part you're talking about?
130 down there is like killing I'd say a 160
Gotcha.
up here.
Okay. Yeah. Chase, I won't lie to you, man. We get to talk to people all over the country, and throughout that, I'm interested in hunting everywhere. But this sounds like the kind of place that I think if you and I went, we'd feel at home and excited at the same time.
Yeah. You can go any direction and find something, whatever you want. I'll say that.
Sure.
We have mountains. We have, the low swampy country. Then we have just the pine plantations. And then kind of in the central state, you get into a mix of it.
Yeah.
So, but I just like hunting the river bottoms. That's where I grew up hunting, and it's just home to me. So, plus that's just where the bigger deer are too. So
we'll bleep that part out.
I didn't say that. They're not good at all. It's a lot of snakes and mosquitoes.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Bear.
Yeah.
That
sounds
awesome,
like Florida. You're not going to scare anybody from Florida.
Yeah, no.
Coming up there.
I heard the trucks kick on.
Yeah. Exactly. Makes sense.
Y'all want to make a trip, you definitely should try Arkansas. I don't think you'd be disappointed.
I mean, honestly, I'm sitting here thinking that, Chase, we need to load up and grab old Parker McDonald and make a trip out to Arkansas at some point in time.
I told him to come on. I won't hold his hand, but I'll.
Hell, I've even made a P-row before.
Yeah, we've got a few.
Yeah.
We've actually got a farmhouse that my father-in-law and some friends bought It's called blind luck, just because we just found it by blind luck. But we bought it, and it's right on the entrance to one of the WMAs. So we're right there in the middle. You can be, let's see, one of them you're looking at, and then the other one you can be there in 10 minutes, the other one in 15. So you've got 3 WMAs, all under 15 minutes from the front door of that place.
Dang.
Daggone, man. Well,
what are the sizes of these WMAs?
I'm looking at them. Some of them are pretty substantial.
You're looking at, some of them are 10,000 acres maybe. Some are over 20, and then some are 160,000 acres, 120.
Wow.
It just depends on which one, and some of them kind of join, especially if you look along the rivers. One may end, but it just flows into another one. It just
okay.
It's all the timber that follows the rivers, so it just keeps going.
Yeah, Chase, when I look at this on OnX, dude, I swear to God I'm looking at Florida just with better habitat. Like, it's really interesting. I've never looked at the public land in Arkansas. I kind of figured, I don't know why I thought this, but I kind of felt like Arkansas would end up a lot like Texas, in that there would be a lot more private land. But I mean, you look at this, you turn on the public land filters on OnX, and that state comes to life.
Yeah, we're rich with public land.
Yeah.
Well, I remember we actually did an episode talking about states to hunt in the South, and we kind of mentioned Arkansas just because I looked it up on the thing and just saw how much public land they had. They had a gun season. There were all kinds of things that I saw. I was like, oh, well, it looks like there's at least a lot of places to hunt, and I've seen some quality deer come out of there before.
Yeah, just look at it, Google it, and look, or whatever you got to do, and look it up. You'll see a lot of really nice deer.
Right.
You'll be pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
And like the land is just endless. I mean, you'd have to spend you'd be coming back and back and back before you even knew where you really wanted to go. There's so much land. I mean, I don't even, I'm from here, and there's still a lot of places I want to go and have it hunted here in the state. So,
yeah.
The season's just not long enough.
Well, dude, Chase, unless you've got any questions, I've got a closer for Caleb.
No, I'm good.
All right, good deal. So, Caleb, are you ready for this one?
Sure.
All right. This is kind of a variant. I ask almost every guest the same question if time is available, and here we go. You go back to your earliest deer hunting self, and you're going to impart one piece of wisdom that will forever change your path as a deer hunter. What singular piece of advice are you going to share with your younger self?
I'd say relax. Just relax. It'll all work out. Have patience.
That's a first, man. I don't think anybody's ever responded with that one. What do you mean? What do you mean by that? Break into that a little bit more.
Well, just being overwhelmed with everything and thinking it's got to happen right now. I mean, you just gotta. It takes time. You gotta learn it, and just enjoy it, and just go out and find it, and it'll all come with time.
Right.
Right
I get that. Just
Yeah.
enjoy the process, because that's what it is. I mean, I feel like I still learn stuff every time I go out into the woods, and definitely know I don't know it all. And when I think I do, I get fooled by the deer every time. So
that's it's just all these new people. Even if they're listening to this, you see everybody killing everything, and you want to do that too. But I mean, it just takes time, and you can't. It's not an overnight process. So.
yeah, everybody wants. We live in the quick fix type world now, where you can get everything off Amazon in a day, and now everybody thinks they can either listen to a podcast or look at YouTube, and then they're going to have it all figured out and go out day one. And I still try to say it takes time. I mean, it may take a couple of years before you kill a deer in some of these places.
Yeah, and just enjoy it all. Because I mean, now that I'm getting older, I enjoy the chess match, the game. I mean, I have just as much fun doing the scouting and finding all the signs, because then you have that anticipation of, he's here, or you're in the game, you have that spot, instead of just trying to kill something and put it on Facebook and crash everybody. I mean, I like that part too.
Yeah.
When you earn it, it feels so much better.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I can speak to that for directly. Hunting Florida has been a challenge for me, especially the public land. It's been a very long 3 or 4 years, and only now do I start to feel like I'm actually starting to put the pieces together. And if you were in any kind of hurry or impatient, or if anything besides the journey had been the focus, I think that would have broke most people.
Yeah, it takes the fun out of it.
Yeah, definitely.
You need to suffer a little bit and just appreciate it more.
Yeah, for sure. Well, dude, I appreciate you taking time out your evening to speak with us, and I have a feeling we're going to have you back on at some point in time and either share some stories or dive deeper into what we've talked about. But where can people find everything, Caleb?
Pretty much just on Facebook. Just look up my name. And then I'm on Instagram. It's Lead Archer 52. But I'm mostly on Facebook. But if anybody wants to ask me anything or whatever, or come to Arkansas, I'm always down to meet new people and go.
That's it. Well, okay, guys, that is another episode. We appreciate you guys tuning in. We appreciate Caleb taking time out of his evening, because he's up late this evening talking deer hunting, even though I think you can kind of tell he enjoys it. So until next time, check out the YouTube channel. We've got hunting videos that are dropping, but most importantly, no matter what you do, get outside and enjoy the great outdoors.